the strange thing about betrayal is that it rarely arrives screaming. Most of the time, it whispers. It hides inside laughter, friendly smiles, and promises you've already begun building your future around. I learned that 10 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, and by the time I understood what I had heard, the woman standing in the mirror wearing the white dress no longer existed. Stories like this don't begin with villains wearing warning labels. They begin with ordinary people believing they know someone completely. Maybe that's why this one still stays with me. If you've ever trusted someone with your whole future, you'll understand exactly why I couldn't simply walk away. My name is Naomi Brooks, 29 years old, born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the oldest daughter of a school principal and a nurse, two people who believed that character mattered far more than money. My mother used to say, "A person tells you who they are every day. You just have to decide whether you're listening." I thought I had listened. Apparently, I had only heard what I wanted to hear. I met Daniel Carter 3 years earlier inside a neighborhood bookstore. Not online, not through mutual friends, not at some glamorous party. A bookstore. He reached for the same novel I was holding. Instead of insisting he saw it first, he smiled. "You take it," he said. "I've already read it." I laughed. "Then why are you picking it up?" He shrugged. I wanted to see who else had good taste. It was corny, completely corny, but somehow, it worked. Daniel wasn't the loudest man in the room. He didn't try to impress people. He listened more than he spoke. He remembered birthdays. He called his grandmother every Sunday. He volunteered twice a month coaching teenagers at the local community center. Everyone loved him, including my parents, especially my father. "You found yourself a solid man," Dad had whispered after Daniel asked permission to marry me. Permission. Not because either of us believed he needed it, but because he respected tradition. Dad hugged him before saying yes. I'd never seen my father cry over another man before. The engagement lasted 14 months, long enough to plan every tiny detail. Too long, maybe, because when people have enough time, secrets find places to grow. Our wedding venue overlooked a quiet lake just outside Charlotte. White roses lined the entrance. Golden chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors. The florist had somehow managed to make the entire ballroom smell like spring after fresh rain. My younger sister Jasmine teased me while adjusting my veil. "You've checked your makeup 6 times. I know. You'll ruin it. I know. You look beautiful." I smiled. "You're required to say that." "No," she grinned. "I'm required to steal your shoes later." Even through my nerves, she made me laugh. Outside the bridal suite, guests had already begun arriving. My college roommates, my cousins, my coworkers from the pediatric clinic, Daniel's football friends, business partners, neighbors, nearly 200 people. Everyone dressed for what they believed would become the happiest day of our lives. No one knew that happiness has a fragile heartbeat. One unexpected sentence, and it stops. At exactly 3:50 p.m., the wedding planner knocked softly. 10 minutes. I nodded. My mouth had suddenly gone dry. "I need a minute." She smiled knowingly. Every bride says that. Everyone stepped outside. I remained alone. Or at least, I thought I was alone. I suddenly realized I'd forgotten the small pearl earrings my grandmother had given me before she passed away. They weren't expensive, but she'd worn them on her own wedding day. I refused to marry without them. "I'll grab them," I called through the door. "They're probably in my emergency bag." The planner answered, "Take your time." I slipped into the hallway. Most guests were already seated. The corridor was almost empty. Quiet. Peaceful. The kind of silence that only exists seconds before something changes forever. Our personal belongings had been stored in a nearby hospitality suite. As I walked toward it, I heard laughter. Male voices. Daniel. And someone else. His best man. Marcus. The door wasn't fully closed. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Honestly, I wasn't. I only planned to walk past. Then I heard my name. Marcus chuckled. "You actually pulled it off." Daniel laughed. "I told you she'd never find out." I froze. My fingers tightened around the bouquet. The flowers trembled before I realized. It wasn't the bouquet shaking. It was me. Marcus lowered his voice. "You sure last night won't come back to haunt you?" Daniel answered almost casually. "Relax. One last night before becoming a husband doesn't erase 3 years together." They both laughed. As if someone had just told the world's funniest joke. Marcus asked quietly, "You don't feel guilty?" Daniel took a long breath. "Guilty? I'll spend the rest of my life being faithful." I deserved one final taste of freedom. My heart slammed against my ribs. No, no, no. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe he was joking. Maybe this wasn't real. Please, let this be one terrible joke. Marcus wasn't laughing anymore. So, she really doesn't know you met Amber? Daniel replied without hesitation. She'll never know. My knees nearly gave out. Amber. I knew exactly who Amber was. Daniel's ex-girlfriend. The woman he'd insisted was ancient history. The woman he'd claimed hadn't spoken to him in years. Marcus sighed. I still think you should have canceled. Canceled? The hotel. Daniel scoffed. You're overthinking it, Marcus asked. What if Amber says something? Daniel answered in the calmest voice imaginable. She wanted closure. She got closure. And after tonight, I'll never see her again. Something inside me shattered so quietly. No one else heard it. My grandmother once said heartbreak doesn't sound like glass breaking. It sounds like every future you imagined quietly folding itself away. Standing outside that door, I finally understood what she meant. I backed away carefully before they could notice me. Every breath felt borrowed. The hallway suddenly seemed too long, too bright, too unreal. My reflection flashed across one of the decorative mirrors. White dress, perfect hair, professional makeup, smiling bride. Except she wasn't smiling anymore. She looked like someone attending her own funeral. I somehow reached the bridal suite. Jasmine immediately noticed. Naomi? No answer. You okay? Still nothing. She grabbed my shoulders. You're scaring me, I finally whispered. I heard Daniel. What? I heard him. Him doing what? I swallowed. Barely. He spent last night with Amber. Silence. Complete silence. Jasmine blinked twice. No. I heard him. No, you misunderstood. I wish I had. She searched my face, looking for doubt. There wasn't any. Only devastation. What exactly did he say? I repeated every sentence. Every word. Every laugh. Every pause. The more I spoke, the paler Jasmine became. When I finished, she slowly sat down. Oh my God. We should confront him. No. Why not? Because if I walk in there crying, he'll lie. She knew I was right. Jasmine had always been impulsive. I wasn't. When life hurt me, I observed first, then acted. It wasn't strength. It was survival. Do you have your phone? I asked. She nodded. Turn on the voice recorder. For what? I need proof. She stared. You seriously want to record him? I need him to say it again. What if he refuses? Then I'll know I imagined everything. We both knew I hadn't imagined anything. Before we could move, another knock interrupted us. 5 minutes! The wedding planner sounded cheerful, completely unaware that the bride was deciding whether the wedding still existed, Jasmine whispered. We can stop this. I looked toward the closed door. Almost 200 guests, family who had traveled across the country. Thousands of dollars already spent. My father, my mother, Daniel's grandmother, children throwing flower petals, photographers, musicians, caterers. Years ago, I would have cared more about embarrassing everyone. Now, I only cared about one question. Who exactly was I about to marry? I need answers. Jasmine squeezed my hand. I'm with you, no matter what. A soft vibration interrupted us. My phone. Daniel, where are you? Everyone's waiting. That little heart emoji almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I stared at it. How fascinating. Someone could betray you, then send you a heart seconds later, I typed. Need 2 minutes, nervous. He replied immediately. Take all the time you need. The irony tasted bitter. Jasmine looked toward me. What now? I want to know everything. What if hearing more only hurts? It already hurts. I need the truth. She took a deep breath. Then let's make him tell it. Our opportunity came unexpectedly. One of the coordinators rushed into the hallway. Daniel can't find his cufflinks. Another groomsman laughed. He's panicking. The planner sighed. I'll send someone. Chaos. Small. Harmless. Exactly the distraction we needed, Jasmine whispered. He's probably heading toward the hospitality suite again. I nodded. So are we. Keeping my veil over my face, we slipped through a side corridor used by staff. I had walked these halls during rehearsal the night before. Now they felt completely unfamiliar, almost like the building itself had changed. As we approached the suite again, voices. Different this time. Only Daniel. He was on the phone. The door remained slightly open. I told you not to call me today. A pause. No. I'm serious. Another pause. I said goodbye. My pulse quickened. Amber, it had to be. I don't regret seeing you. Silence. But today's different. Longer silence. No, I loved you once. And maybe a small part of me always will. The room spun. But I'm marrying Naomi. Another pause. Because she's the future I chose. He sounded sincere. Heartbreak often wears sincerity like expensive cologne. I can't keep doing this. I know. I'm hanging up now. Click. Silence. I pressed my back against the wall. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. Not because she was emotional. Because there was no misunderstanding anymore. The door opened. Daniel stepped out. He hadn't seen us. He hurried down the hallway adjusting his jacket. Perfect groom. Perfect smile. Perfect liar. I stood there unable to move. Until something caught my eye inside the room. A black leather overnight bag. Half open. Not Daniel's. Someone else's. Jasmine whispered. We should leave. Instead, I walked inside. Slowly, carefully, almost against my own better judgment. The room still smelled faintly of expensive cologne and women's perfume. On the coffee table sat 2 empty champagne glasses. 1 lipstick stain. Fresh. Beside them, a hotel key card. Not for the wedding venue, for a luxury hotel downtown. The date printed across the sleeve. Last night. Jasmine looked at me. Naomi. Neither of us spoke, because sitting beside the key card was a folded receipt. 2 dinners, 2 breakfasts, 1 king suite. Check out. This morning, I reached for the receipt with trembling fingers. But before I could unfold it completely, a woman's voice echoed from the hallway. Daniel? Jasmine's eyes widened. I turned toward the door, just as elegant heels clicked closer and closer. Someone was coming. And whoever she was, she knew the groom far better than any wedding guest should. The sound of those heels echoed through the hallway, with the kind of confidence that made people instinctively step aside. I quickly folded the receipt and slipped it into my bouquet. Jasmine grabbed my arm. Naomi, we have to go. Before we could move, a tall woman appeared in the doorway. She looked to be in her early 30s, dressed in a navy blue pantsuit instead of a wedding guest dress. Her makeup was minimal, her expression composed, but there was something unmistakably emotional in her eyes. She looked directly at me, then at my wedding dress. For a long second, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, You're Naomi. My stomach tightened. You know my name. She nodded slowly. I do. Jasmine stepped between us. Who are you? The woman hesitated before answering. My name is Amber. The room became perfectly still. For weeks I had imagined what I would do if I ever saw Daniel's ex again. I imagined shouting, slapping her, demanding answers. Instead, I simply stared. She didn't look like the villain I'd built in my imagination. She looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept, like someone carrying something much heavier than guilt. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Those were the first words she offered. Not an excuse, not a defense, an apology. Jasmine crossed her arms. Sorry isn't enough. Amber nodded. I know. I looked at her. Did you spend last night with my fiancé? She closed her eyes for a moment, then answered, Yes. The truth landed harder than any lie ever could. Even though I already knew, hearing it from her lips felt like someone had finally driven the last nail into a collapsing bridge. I think you should leave, Jasmine snapped. Amber didn't move. I came because Naomi deserves the whole truth. I laughed bitterly. The whole truth? I already heard enough. No, she swallowed. You heard what Daniel wanted Marcus to hear. That sentence stopped me. What does that mean? Amber looked at the closed door behind us before lowering her voice. Daniel thinks I came here because I still wanted him. She shook her head. I didn't. So why did you? She reached into her handbag. Because someone contacted me 2 weeks ago. She pulled out her phone and told me your marriage would be built on a lie. My heartbeat quickened. What lie? Amber unlocked her phone. She opened an email, then handed it to me. The sender's name made my hand shake. Marcus Bennett, Daniel's best man. The email read, If Naomi marries Daniel without knowing what happened between you two, she'll spend the rest of her life living a lie. Meet him one last time. Make him tell you the truth. I looked up. You didn't contact Daniel? She shook her head. He contacted me after I replied. Jasmine frowned. Why would Marcus do that? Amber answered quietly. I think he expected Daniel to confess before the wedding. He kept telling Daniel he should tell you everything. I remembered the conversation outside the hospitality suite. Marcus had asked, You don't feel guilty? Maybe. He hadn't been encouraging Daniel. Maybe he'd been warning him. I still don't understand. Amber sat down slowly. Neither did I. Until last night. She took a deep breath. When Daniel asked me to meet him, I thought he wanted closure. He apologized. He admitted he had treated me badly years ago. He cried. Real tears. I believed him. She looked directly into my eyes. Nothing physical happened. I stared. What? We had dinner. We talked for hours. He hugged me goodbye. That was it. I immediately remembered the hotel receipt. The King Suite. Amber nodded. We met inside the hotel restaurant. The wedding venue was overbooked, so Daniel rented a hospitality suite there for privacy. She sighed. The room came with an overnight reservation, because that was the only package available. My mind raced. But I heard him. He said he deserved one final taste of freedom. Amber looked genuinely confused. What? I repeated every sentence I had overheard. Every single one. When I finished, Amber's face changed. Not with guilt. With disbelief. He actually said that? Yes, she whispered. Then he lied to Marcus too. Nothing made sense anymore. Before anyone could speak again, the door burst open. Daniel. He froze. His eyes darted between me. Amber, the receipt in my trembling hand. Then Jasmine. His face turned pale. Naomi, his voice barely came out. This isn't... I raised my hand. No. You don't get to start with this isn't what it looks like. Because honestly, nothing ever is. Guests could be heard laughing somewhere down the hall. The quartet had begun playing soft violin music. The ceremony was less than 3 minutes away. Yet inside that room, time had completely stopped. Daniel looked at Amber. You came. She answered calmly. I said I would. He looked back at me. I can explain. I folded my arms. So explain. He rubbed both hands over his face. I met Amber because there was something I needed to finish before marrying you. What? I needed to apologize. Why? Because I hurt her. I waited. He continued. I cheated on Amber. That surprised me. He had always claimed they simply grew apart. I lied. I wasn't honest because I was ashamed. He looked at me with tears forming. I never cheated on you. Jasmine scoffed. We heard you? I know. And I deserve every bit of your anger. I pulled the hotel receipt from my bouquet. Explain this. He took one glance. I paid for dinner. The hotel automatically included breakfast. I never stayed. Amber nodded. He's telling the truth. I wasn't ready to believe either of them. Not after what I had heard. So why tell Marcus you deserved one last taste of freedom? Daniel closed his eyes, then laughed. Not happily. Hopelessly. I knew you'd ask. He looked toward the ceiling before speaking. Marcus and I made a terrible habit years ago. We joked about relationships. We acted tougher than we were. I didn't want him thinking I met Amber just to apologize. So I pretended. Pretended? Yes. I wanted him to believe I'd had one final reckless night. Jasmine stared. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Daniel nodded. It was. I was embarrassed to admit I'd spent 4 hours apologizing and crying. So, I lied. Silence settled over the room. For the first time, his explanation actually matched everything. The dinner, the receipt, Amber, Marcus's questions. But one sentence still wouldn't let go. You told Amber, maybe a small part of me always will. He looked down. I did. Why? Because it was true. Those words hurt far more than I expected. I loved her once. I'll always care that I hurt her. That doesn't mean I want a future with her. He stepped closer. I chose you. Every day, I shook my head. No, you chose a performance. You chose looking strong in front of Marcus instead of being honest. You chose protecting your image over protecting my trust. He didn't argue, because he couldn't. My father suddenly appeared at the doorway. "Naomi?" His smile disappeared immediately. "What happened?" No one answered. He looked from one face to another, then quietly closed the door behind him. "Dad," my voice cracked. "I don't know if I can marry him." He didn't ask for details. He simply walked over and took my hand, the same way he had when I was 6 years old and terrified of my first day of school. "Sweetheart, you don't owe anyone a wedding. You only owe yourself an honest life." Those words settled over the room like peace after a storm. Daniel wiped away tears. "If you walk away today, I'll understand. I'll regret my stupidity for the rest of my life. But please, don't make your decision because of who I pretended to be. Make it because of who I've actually been with you." That sentence lingered, because relationships aren't destroyed only by betrayal. Sometimes they're destroyed by pride, by pretending, by the version of ourselves we think others expect. I thought about 3 years together. Every ordinary Tuesday, every difficult conversation, every hospital visit when my mother was sick, every time he'd driven across town just because I'd had a bad day. Were those moments real? Yes. Had he also lied? Yes. Could both things exist at once? Unfortunately, they could. The wedding planner knocked again. "Everyone's ready." No one moved. I looked at Daniel. "I have one question." He nodded. "Anything. If I hadn't overheard you, would you ever have told me?" He stared at the floor for several seconds. Finally, no. That honest answer hurt. But strangely, it also gave me clarity. I smiled through tears. "Thank you." He looked confused. "I finally know exactly where we stand." I removed my engagement ring. The room fell silent. I placed it gently into his hand. "I forgive you." His eyes widened. "But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. You were ready to begin our marriage with a lie you thought I would never discover. I deserve better than spending the rest of my life wondering which version of you I'm talking to." Daniel began crying openly. Not dramatic tears, not desperate ones. The quiet tears of someone realizing consequences don't disappear, just because intentions weren't evil. I kissed his cheek. "I truly hope one day you become the man you keep pretending to be." Then I picked up my dress, took my father's arm, and walked out, not toward the altar, toward the exit. Guests stood in stunned silence as they watched the bride leave. No shouting, no scene, no revenge, only dignity. Months later, people still told different versions of what happened that afternoon. Most of them were wrong, because the real story wasn't about a cheating groom. It was about a man who let pride become dishonesty. And a woman who realized that love without complete trust is simply hope wearing a wedding dress. 16 months later, I was back in the same bookstore where Daniel and I had first met. Not because I was looking for memories, because I genuinely loved books. As I reached for a novel, another hand reached for it too. We both laughed. "You take it," he said. I smiled. "No, I've heard that line before." He laughed. "So I'll have to think of a better one." Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. That part isn't important. What mattered was something I'd finally learned. The strongest relationships aren't built on perfect people. They're built on people who choose honesty before comfort, truth before image, and humility before pride. Sometimes a wedding doesn't fall apart because love was missing. Sometimes it falls apart because trust quietly left the room first. And once trust walks away, even the most beautiful ceremony can't persuade it to come back. If this story made you think differently about trust, forgiveness, or the quiet cost of dishonesty, I'd love to know what lesson stayed with you the most.